I have it on. Yep. I'm David Jones, Sergeant of Arms. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Today I got back from a 5-day vacation. I went down to Louisiana, to Lake Charles, Louisiana. It's where my older daughter and grandkids live. Went down and saw them. And my son-in-law is a college football coach. He's at McNeese Football, and they are called the Cowboys. No, the Cowboys, singular, not Cowboys like Dallas. They're the Cowboy. In fact, they have statues of the original cowboy all dressed up. And everybody down there wears cowboy hats and cowboy boots. So I decided I was going to try to fit in. And I knew I couldn't pull off a cowboy hat. So I bought myself some cowboy boots while I was down there. And I also got some button-up jeans. First time I ever have button-fly jeans. Here you go, Cameron. And I know people on Zoom can't see my boots, but just a word to the wise to the guys. I've never had button-fly jeans before. And when you have to go number one and you're running into the bathroom, you need to allow for a few more seconds to play it safe, just so you know. And with that great transition, I'm going to turn it over to our president, Elvis Lopez. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. Welcome to Queen City Toastmasters Club. Tonight, we have a very interesting lineup of speakers. We are going to learn about podcasts. Before we get into the meat of our meeting, I'd like to recognize our guests. We have about 6 guests tonight, right, on site. And I don't think we have any on Zoom. So let's start with the introduction of our guests. Please tell us your name. How did you hear about Queen City Toastmasters? And what is it that you're interested in? I'm going to hand it over to our Toastmaster, Jamie.
Treasurer. All right, thank you, Master President. So we have some guests in person. So we'd like to just, again, what brought you here today and your name and a little bit more about you if you like. All right, I'm going to start with Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay. I heard about Toastmasters through Jennifer, who is speaking today. And I'm interested in being here because I myself am terrified of public speaking. And I think that it would be a really good skill to learn. And I want to be inspired today.
All right, well, welcome. You're in the right place if you just want to see how you can start to scratch that itch. And I'll skip over our guest speaker because she'll have an opportunity to introduce herself shortly. And then do we have another guest? Leon? All right. That's all right. As long as you're a guest, we're going to keep asking you to just, what brought you back the second time?
Yeah, my name is Leon. As I mentioned, I was here last week, and what brought me back was I just enjoyed the atmosphere, and since moving to Charlotte, looking to continue in Toastmasters. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. And then I've got Reggie, who's back.
Hey, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Reggie Harris. This is actually my 4th time attending. I really enjoy being here, and so that's why I'm back. So I'm looking to get more involved and become a better speaker.
Very good. Thank you, Reggie. And then I have, is it Amit or Amit? Oh, okay. How did you?
Hi everyone, I'm Arijit Mukherjee. I heard about Toastmaster from one of my friend who is in Germany, and I'm like, I do not know what to say when I'm presenting something in front of hundreds of people, and I need to do that for my work. So I heard it from one of my friend, and she told me you should really go and join, and this will improve your skill. So that brought me here for the first time. Thank you.
Awesome. Welcome. Then I've got Zach.
Hey, my name is Zach. I've been here once before, about a month ago. Took a month off, but I enjoyed it my first time, so I'm back to improve my public speaking.
All right, thank you, Zach. And lastly, we have Elizabeth.
Hello, I am Elizabeth, and I am here due to my wonderful friend Heather. And I am here because I generally have a passion for for communication. It's wonderful to explore all areas of communication. I've devoted my career and my life to communication. So I think it's wonderful to be in areas for improvement in this space. So that's why I'm here.
Is that the interviewer review coming out? Yeah. All right. So welcome to all of our guests then. We'll come back at the very end where we'll ask folks just to share a little bit about your thoughts on the meeting as well. So prepare for that. All right, back to our president.
Thank you, Jamie. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the person who is going to lead us throughout this meeting. Is our Toastmaster of the night, David Jones.
I don't know if y'all remember me. I was talking about boots a minute ago. I don't know. All right. Anyways, my role is to lead the meeting, try to keep it on time. We might not keep it on time tonight. But tonight we're going to have two speakers. We're going to have our guest speaker, Jennifer, talking about how to do a podcast. And then on Zoom, we have Sonia Pons, who's with South Park, which is our sister club. She lives in Maryland, so you will never meet her except for that wave right there. But that's the joy of Zoom. We can have members from all over the world joining with us. In fact, I'm a member of a New York club that I meet on Thursday mornings. Never been there, but it's a great way to do it. Here at Toastmasters at Queen City, we like to have guest speakers come to talk about things. Last month, we had somebody talk about doing a TED Talk, because eventually when you become a Toastmaster, you might want to do a TED Talk, and we wanted to find out how to do it. And it was interesting because one of the things he said was, if you want to be a great Toastmaster or great public speaker, you need to do improv classes. Now, Eric, who's on Zoom, and I have both wanted to do improv classes. And when we heard that, we said, oh, wow, we definitely have to do it. Unfortunately, my schedule wouldn't allow it, but Eric has started last week doing improv classes, and he's going to try to get them to come here and talk to us down the road about why we need to learn improv to be great speakers. And that's why I asked Jennifer to come here, because part of Toastmasters curriculum, it's called Pathways. It's like our textbook. And at the end of your pathways, you have to do a podcast where you do a podcast, you introduce it, you do like a 15 to 20 minute presentation. So it's important enough for them to put into their curriculum. And that's why I wanted to have Jennifer talk about it, because unfortunately, if you go to Toastmasters International, they say just do it. They don't tell you how to do it. So we're going to be above everybody else, all the other clubs, because we're going to learn from her. And we'll get to Jennifer in a minute, but I also wanted to mention that I wanted to first introduce the officers that are here. So we have our president, Elvis Lopez. We have Eric Laxer, who is our VP of Education, who's on Zoom. We have, let me see, Heather Jacoby, our VP of Public Relations. If you are on social media, she's been posting everything and she's been doing a great job. Our treasurer, Jamie Richardson, myself, Sergeant of Arms, and Vanessa Waller is our immediate past president. And I mention us because when you join the club or you're a guest, sometimes you're a little nervous. Like, at least you join the club, that's your first step. But then sometimes you feel like you're alone, like you're out there just trying to figure it out. And what I'm asking you to do is to reach out to one of the club members so we can coach you, so we can help you along your journey so you don't feel alone. And in addition to us, we have some veteran speakers. We have John, who you're going to hear from in a minute. We have Cameron. And if you need somebody to help you along the way, you can reach out to them. I believe we have Eugene Ellington online. He's another great Toastmaster. So don't ever feel like you're alone. If you're going to join and you need help, just reach out to any one of us and we'll help you along your journey. And with that, I'm going to have our inspirational speaker, John Capello, come up and wow us. John?
Thank you, David, for that warm introduction. I don't know if I'm going to wow you with anything, but I am going to try to be inspirational. I would also reiterate what David said. If any new members decide that they would like to attack a role, I happily offer my guidance as best I can. Now, all of you, whether you know it or not, have this. That is your circle of comfort. And within your circle of comfort is safety, it's calmness, it's home. But the problem is that your true fulfillment is outside of that circle. What is outside that circle? Fear of something, the unknown maybe, fear of mistakes, fear of failure. And if I redefine what's in the circle for a second, maybe you'll start thinking a little bit differently. A synonym for what's inside that circle could be routine, wasted talent, being not pushing yourself. So if you're going to proceed and fulfill yourself, be that best person you can be, I firmly believe that you need to be a little bit better tomorrow than you were yesterday. That's where true happiness is. Yes, it may seem risky, but stepping outside of that comfort zone does something pretty unique. In that circle of comfort, you all made a decision to come here today. That was outside of your circle of comfort. And when you do you think your little circle just gets a little like a pimple? No, it doesn't. Your entire circle grows. Your entire circle grows. It will impact other things in your life, not just public speaking. So for all you guests who have come here today thinking, I just want to be a better speaker, I can assure you that once you tackle this, all other aspects of your life will seem to get just a little bit easier. You'll get a little bit more comfortable and your circle will continue to grow. If your circle isn't growing, that means you're being rooted in place. Remember all those words in the middle: settling, routine, wasted talent. Do you want to be inside that circle or do you want to keep expanding it? Toastmaster David.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Toastmaster John. And for the guest, if you're wondering what's going on, after the president speaks, he is an elected official. I'm the Toastmaster, and every person you're going to hear speak next signed up for the role. And that's how Toastmaster works, is you sign up for a role and you're Toastmaster, you're grammarian, you're timer. There's different roles, and eventually you feel comfortable enough to give speeches. And with that, I'm going to start introducing our role keepers who are going to help us run the meeting. And the first one up is Jordan Temple. He's on Zoom, and he is going to be our grammarian today. Do you want to explain your role, Jordan?
Yep. Thank you, David. So as the grammarian, I just realized I said, it's a good example. I will be checking for all of the fillers that people are using. Think of me as the librarian, sort of dotting I's and crossing T's in the background here, looking out for those fallback phrases that we use. I'm also responsible for the word of the day, which I figured I would go with one that everybody knows: politely. So politely means in a respectful and considerate manner. For example, we waited politely for me to ask questions. And if you use those, you get extra points at the end.
All right. Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it. And the word of the day is an important word because if you're at work and you've been working on a speech for the ABC account, and then last minute your boss comes to you and says, hey, don't forget to talk about the XYZ account. I'm not ready for that. Well, just practicing the word of the day politely will get you in the habit of being able to just throw in a word or a subject or even a new client. And that's why we do word of the day. So every time you come up here, try to use the word politely in a polite way. Next up is going to be our timer, because at Toastmaster, we keep time of everything. And we're going to have Heather Jacoby, our VP of Public Relations, tell you what she's going to do. Do it here. I'll do it over there. No, you come up here. I'll go over there. I'll do the lights for you.
Oh, you'll do the lights for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, David. Okay, I'm Heather. I am the timer. So I probably should never speak with gum in my mouth. I don't think that is a good, I will politely put the gum on top of my mouth. Okay, so we have two speakers and an evaluator. And so for our first speaker, Jennifer, it's going to be a 10 or 15 minute speech. So the timer is going to go green at 10, yellow at 12 minutes and 30 seconds, and red at 15. So once you hit green, you're good. And then for Sonia, Sonia's going to be on Zoom. So that's a 5 to 7 minute speech. So that is going to be green at 5, yellow at 6, and red at 7. And then for our evaluator, Vanessa, it's a 2 to 3 minute evaluation, 2 minutes at yellow, 2:30 at red, and 3 at red. So yes, yes, thank you, Jamie. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And with that, we are going to turn it over to our guest speaker. Her name is Jennifer Busco. Yeah, and she is going to tell us how to do a podcast. And you want, is she going to hand them out? Okay, perfect. And then while you're doing it, I'm going to put the PDF that we're handing out on Zoom. So.
Do I need to look anywhere? So I have Lindsay handing out a handout. So if you don't get what I'm saying, or you're sort of thinking about other things, pretty much everything that I'm going over will be on your handout. So, okay. Everybody have their handouts? Thanks, Lindsay. So my spiritual teacher always says, you can't miss what's coming to you. And what I think she means by that is if you believe in a higher power, source, the universe, whatever's meant to be will be. And as humans, when you feel that pull towards something, or like you're drawn towards doing something, in my opinion, it's probably meant to be. And just like John was saying earlier, sometimes we have a little bit of fear surrounding going outside of our circles. And feeling something that you want to do, you need courage to do it. You have to go outside of that circle to do it. But the timing always depends on how much action that you take towards what you're thinking that you want. And to me, podcasting has always been one of those things that I felt a pull towards, or this work. Ever since I was little, I used to watch Oprah and be like, I could be like her. She's intelligent, she's funny, she's sort of ridiculous, and so am I, but she's also really deep and spiritual. And that really resonated with me. So I believe that whatever's meant to be will be. You can't miss what's coming to you. Cut to last year, one of my private healing clients invited me out on a boat. Now, typically I don't mix business with pleasure, but I happen to have a 10-year-old boy and he's a Pisces, and we all know Pisces love water. So to bring some joy to my boy, I politely accepted the invitation to the boat. So while I was on the boat, I met a guy named Frank, and Frank was talking to me and he was telling me what he did. He said, I own an auto mechanic shop right down the street from where you live. And I said, you do? I mean, I'm not really into cars, but I don't know what you're talking about. He said, yes, it's a vintage auto mechanic shop. It's right down the street from where you live. I said, Frank, the laundromat? He's like, no, it was a laundromat in the 50s. It's a vintage auto mechanic shop. He said, you know, it's the one that has the mobile podcast studio in the parking lot. All of a sudden, the clouds parted, the sky seemed bluer, the sun shined down just a little warmer, and I swore I heard angels say, oh! And the next day, I hit the ground running and I reached out to Pod Blast Charlotte. So Pod Blast Charlotte is a 1964 Yellowstone camper. It's a mobile podcast studio. And the owner of the studio sort of mentored me and walked me through what I needed to do to start this podcast. So I'm going to share that with you today. Just like there's no crying in baseball, there are no rules in podcasting. And that can be really hard for type A people that are like, I don't know what to do. So you need to understand, in my opinion, a podcast is a work of art. It's an expression of your voice. It's an expression of an extension of who you are. And so it's really important to understand that you have to grow with this work of art. Everything evolves, everything's growing, and you need to sort of go with that. So my podcast name is the Jennifer Johnny Podcast, and that's based on healing, yoga, spirituality. And the idea is, I believe the most important relationship you'll ever have is the relationship to yourself. So through listening to my podcast, you gain these epiphanies and awarenesses like, who am I speaking my truth to my wife? Oh, am I operating out of that belief? So by listening to conversations that I have with guests, you sort of have these epiphanies about yourself. So talking about the evolution of this art for season 2, I'm changing my podcast name from Jennifer Johnny Podcast to actually what I'm doing. And I'm calling my podcast the Bittersweet Epiphanies Podcast. So it's really about understanding that this work, it evolves, it grows, and it changes. First thing you need to start a podcast is the name. Podcast name, you need a podcast logo, you need a podcast graphic, and you need an intro and an outro song. So you have to either buy the rights to a song and you can talk over it. So for the Jennifer Johnny season 1, I bought the rights to an instrumental song and I said, welcome to the Jennifer Johnny Podcast, bringing energy into your life and healing through conversation. Thanks so much for tuning in. So that was my intro song. And then I had an outro song as well. Or you can just buy the rights to a song. But for season 2, I'm actually writing my own music and I'm very excited about that. So I'm not paying anybody for anybody's rights because I'm doing it on my own. So you need all of those things. Then you need a place to record your podcast. So I record at Pod Blast Charlotte, which is right around the corner in Chantilly. You can also look at co-working spaces. A lot of co-working spaces have podcasts as well. What you need before you start is a host website. Your host website is your right-hand man. The host website that I use is called buzzsprout.com. So what Buzzsprout does is it takes what you upload and it disperses it into all the platforms that you have been approved by. So I applied for Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts because I thought those are the 3 main channels. And if you have an iPhone or a Droid, you can listen, through any of those platforms. And for marketing, I didn't want to have 10 different places where you can find the podcast. So once you upload the podcast to Buzzsprout, it disperses it to all of your channels. Buzzsprout also gives you all the statistics that you need. So it tells you how many downloads you've had per episode. It gives you tips and tricks and sends you emails about how you can make your podcast more efficient. It tells you where the people are that are listening to your podcast. I don't know how I have people in New Zealand, Mexico. It is so crazy the information you can get from this website. And it also tells you the devices that people are using when they listen to your podcast. So Lindsay listened to it from a computer or in a phone or whatever device that they listen to it. But the helpful emails are really amazing that you get weekly. You get weekly updates. They send you emails. Congratulations, Jennifer, you've had 1,000 downloads. Woo! And then you party and celebrate. The next thing that you need is some way to record and edit. So I use Audacity. You can also use GarageBand if anybody's familiar with that, but the software that I use is called Audacity, and it's compatible with an HP or with an Apple, and you just need to make sure that you have the right add-ons and the tools and all that stuff. First rule about Audacity or about recording a podcast, save it and back it up, back it up. I learned that the hard way because I recorded my sister, so she's family and family forgives. We recorded an hour and 20-minute podcast about what it's like to be an empath. And we were all like woo-wooed out and it was so deep and amazing. And we go back to my apartment, we pop a bottle of champagne. We're like, woo, let's edit it together and cheers. I hit select all delete and lost it and never got it back. So you really want to back up what you're doing, whether it's on a hard drive or something, just to be courteous of your time and your guests. We had to re-record the whole entire thing. So there are 2 things that you need to do on Audacity that I do that are very, very important in terms of quality audio. You want to work on the white noise. So you may think, oh, it's just 2 people talking. It's so easy. Oh no, it is not easy to get quality audio. And if you listen to podcasts, you might know certain podcasts just sound better than others. And you can hear that shh in the background. So for Audacity, what you need to do is when you're recording, you record 10 seconds of silence in the beginning. So the red light goes on, 10 seconds. Then when you go into edit through Audacity, you take that 10 seconds and you get the effect, the white noise reduction effect. And what Audacity does is it reads the sound between the words and cleans it up. Does that make sense? So it takes everything between the words that are spoken and cleans it up so there's no shh in between. The next effect that is really important is called normalization. You want to normalize voices because certain people talk louder, lower, quieter. So what normalizing does is you select it all and it normalizes the volume of you and your guest or guest voice. Another thing you need to do, and I have a spiel with all my guests, microphone comfortability. Just like Mariah Carey, she pulls the mic away. If you have some of the belly, the belly laugh, they got to pull that away. Or if their dog just died yesterday and they want to talk quietly because they're so sad, then they need to get a little closer. So you need to have this conversation. And I have a little hand gesture. I'll do this or this, come closer, stay away, because that really helps get quality audio. You also need to, once you record all of that and you've edited everything and done all of your effects, you have to put your intro song and then your outro song. So I fade it out and then I have the podcast and then I fade it in with the outro song. Now there is a feature on Buzzsprout, our best friend, our little right-hand man, our host website, where you can upload your intro and outro songs. And every time you upload the podcast, it puts it on the beginning and the end for you, which is actually really amazing. Buzzsprout, our host website, also has this beautiful feature called Magic Mastering. So it's $9 additional a month, but well worth it, where you edit your podcast and then you upload it through the Magic Mastering tab, and then Audacity or Buzzsprout edits it for you and gives you even more of a pristine, crystal clear quality. So nowadays with technology, it's not too hard to get quality audio. The alternative options to podcast studios would be, there are apps. Anchor is an app on your iPhone where you can download the app, you can create your intro and outro songs, and then you put the phone on the table and hit record. You can edit it there, and then you can turn that into an MP3 and pull it into Audacity or GarageBand. There also are portable recording equipment where you can do a podcast in a closet or at the beach where it's windy and you put the mic on and there's a little thing and then you upload that into Audacity and then follow steps 2 and 3 with white noise and normalizing. Another option for podcasts is bonus episodes. To me, this is a great way to show a light heart or maybe the comical side, the outtakes, stuff like that. So since my podcast is a healing podcast, I believe food is healing. So I have my 10-year-old boy reviewing restaurants and eating with honesty, and he's a food critic on bonus episodes, 5 to 10 minutes top. Super simple, super lighthearted. And bonus episodes are great because you can insert them around the holidays or when you want to go on vacation and you don't want to have that consistent sort of every single Tuesday or every other Tuesday. So you can kind of insert those bonus episodes to keep your fans engaged and understanding that you're still here, but you're kind of taking a little break. Creativity and consistency. I believe we are humans, we are animals, and consistency is a great way for us to feel comfortable and safe. So doing the same thing every podcast is a great way to keep everyone engaged and captivated. So what I do is I close my podcast, every single one, by asking, what is your greatest lesson to a blessing? What in your life has really sucked, but it has made you a better person? It has opened up your heart. It has helped you grow. So I think having a little clever consistency within your podcast is really an intelligent way to create. Marketing, social media, word of mouth. I teach yoga. I talk about my podcast and yoga in the community, watching live music. I sing, I do open mics. I'm always talking about my podcast, but I do have a little creative thing that I did where I created QR code stickers with my Spotify link about this big. And what you do with these QR code stickers is they are step 2 of marketing. Because of cyber hackers and all these things that can happen in the world, you don't want to just go and put your QR code stickers everywhere in Charlotte. This is step 2 of marketing. It's, hey, you want to hear about my podcast? Okay, here's a QR code sticker, step 2. It's also really, I believe, smart to have just a 20-second elevator pitch. Practice it where you can say in public what your 20-second elevator pitch is and what your content is for your podcast. People don't have attention spans. They stop listening after 20 seconds. Just keep it simple. Tell them what you're doing. Sponsorships, the $1 million topic. All right, y'all. It's recommended that you have at least 6 months of podcasting or 1,000 downloads under your belt before you even shop for sponsors. Buzzsprout, our right-hand man podcast, has a feature that's called Podcorn. So you can create an account in Buzzsprout and actually shop for sponsors. And you can scroll through and find a sponsor that's in alignment with your brand. So for me, maybe it would be sustainable organic clothing. Or maybe it's a meditation app, something that's in alignment with your brand. And there are typically 2 ways that you can receive compensation. One is a flat rate, which is just according to your downloads, or 1 is a percentage of the sales that you have generated via some sort of promo code that you've talked about in your ad. The Jennifer Johnny podcast has created an indirect form of income for me in the sense that my work is highlighted throughout these podcasts. So I've gained multiple private clients, speaking events, even things like today is just great exposure. It's not about the money, y'all. It's about the intention. And one of my friends told me once, Jennifer, it's about content over perfection. Content over perfection. Nothing's going to be perfect. Just do good work, have integrity, be authentic, and just put it out there. Thank you so much, everybody. All of the information is in the handout that I gave you, as well as my contact information. So if you have any questions about this very challenging, but very, very rewarding process, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you. What? Oh yeah, questions. Anybody have questions? Okay. I would probably say the Anchor app. So the Anchor app that's on your handout, it's just all on your iPhone and you can just put it on your coffee table. Even if you don't want to have a guest and you just want to talk about something, you can just record from there. But I would try to make sure that the sound, the AC is not loud or that the sound's pretty quality. Can you help me? So I am a one-man show. I do it all. I do the marketing, the graphics, everything. And I really do want eventually to be, having some sort of a YouTube channel or a video outlet. So yes, I've thought about it, but yes, it overwhelms me. But maybe I need to step out of my circle. Oh. Good question. So he asked how I prepare and is it scripted pretty much? And how I prepare is my podcast is based on energy and healing. So I honestly have a flow of the guests. It just kind of falls into my flow. Like I'll meet somebody at a market or I'll meet somebody at a concert where they have something to offer and I'll just conversate with people. But I will say, if you're starting a podcast and you want more than one, that you should stockpile. I had at least 6 or 7 stockpiled. So that's why you need to back it up before I actually dropped it. Because what if you get sick or what if you have to travel, right? So in that sense, you want to have a foundation of more than one. But I typically have a phone call with a guest. We have about a 30-minute conversation. And usually it's like an arc, like a movie, right? So here's the problem. So when this happened to you, how did you get through it? Where are you now? Whether it's one of my friends whose child, passed away suddenly, tragically, that happened, that sucked. Here's how she got through it. Here's where she is now starting a foundation, or just some sort of challenge or trauma. So it's almost like a movie in that arc form where the ending's almost happy in that sense. I am not a scripted person. That's why tonight was kind of hard for me to have my index cards because I'm a go with the flow kind of girl. So everybody's different, but I usually have a couple bullet points. And I would say, please do not let your guests bring in printed out things they are reading. That brings such inauthenticity and roboticism. You want to interview the person. You don't want to interview who they're trying to be in the world. And so you have to balance it out. And what's really tricky about podcasting is you have to be present with the person. So I'm talking to Heather, but then I also have to think about what I'm going to say next. So there's this weird sort of dynamic where you have to be present and engaging, but then you also have to be like, okay, now what am I going to say next? So it's like almost like a dance in that way. So I always do have some idea, but I do kind of go with the flow. But again, that's why Audacity editing is amazing, because you can be like, oh, that 5 minutes was really boring. I'm just going to take that out. Just going to delete it. Anybody else? Mm-hmm. Well, just like I said, there's no rules in podcasting. I would say maybe you start with doing bi-weekly or once a month drop. So I did every single Tuesday from October 19th to May, but I have a pretty flexible schedule. I don't have like a traditional job. So I had time to do that. But I would say if you really want to be consistent and keep the drive, you don't want to overwhelm yourself, but on the flip side of that, you find a flow. Like I found a flow where I would record on Tuesdays and then I would maybe edit it Wednesday and Thursday, 4 to 6 hours. It does take some time. And then sometimes my kid's outside playing on a Saturday afternoon and I'd be finalizing everything. So you really find that it's almost like working out. Like you just find a flow and just let that happen. Don't force it on how you edit and how you record, and make sure you don't overwhelm yourself, because you want it to be fun. You want it to be something that you're really trying to get out in the world and not something that you're just trying to check the boxes with. Somebody else? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. It's malleable, yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Right. Yeah, I would. Yes. And what I think in all of this work, even in my healing work, it's about meeting people where they are. Right. So when I talk to somebody for 30 minutes and I can tell that they are type A and they need the bullet points and the essays and the paragraphs, then I'll be a little more. But Lindsay was on and we just had a little bit of a plan and we had, yeah. Yeah. But I think it's like meeting that person where they are, right? Because it's an energy that you want people to feel, the authenticity between the person, like the circular energy that's going out into the world. So it's like, if that's what you're needing, then that's what I want to provide. But yes, I do like having some sort of consistent, tangible thing to give them. So thank you for that, David. Oh, hi. Can I look here?
Hello. Sorry I'm
Hi.
not there in person. Missed
We're
you
sorry
today,
too.
but enjoyed your presentation. What is the best thing that you would advise someone who's a guest on a podcast? What would you advise them the best way to approach that situation if they're seeking to be on a podcast?
Great question. And I would say less is more. I don't think that you need to fill things with words when they don't need to be filled. And I always ground myself before. So I've been a guest on multiple podcasts and I always just sort of ground myself before, pull in some earth energy, kind of get into my body, get really present and just take your time. It's okay if there's a space, especially if being a guest on a podcast and you know they're going to edit, you can take 7 seconds to think. You don't need to fill it up with trash, or meaningless talk. You can just take that pause, take your time, less is more, and just try to be as authentic as you can. I think just like any other form of art, like music, right? You can feel when that person is authentically in love with music. You can feel that. You can feel when an actor is doing great. So I feel like podcasting is very similar, where when you can get that person to be open-hearted and vulnerable and feel safe in their space, then the guest just naturally, so your job is to hope the host is okay. It can relax you and then just be yourself.
Hey, can you hear me, Jennifer?
Yes. Hi. Yes. Hi.
Hi. That was really informative and excellent. Thank you. You may have said this already. How many podcasts did you have to have recorded, or did you have recorded before you started actually posting and advertising? And is there a number, or do you recommend just start and do it week by week and just keep going that way?
I think better safe than sorry. So I had about 6 or 7 podcasts recorded. So I started recording in August and I didn't drop my first podcast till October 19th. I was waiting on the logo and the graphics and all that stuff. And so I definitely would say you want to get ahead of yourself a little bit, because you can lose sleep at night thinking, oh gosh, who's going to be my next guest? Or, oh gosh, do I have time to edit this? So I do think even if they're not edited, it's great to have at least 3 or 4 before you drop your first episode, just to play it safe, because we all know life happens. Who knows, right? Anybody else? Y'all ready to start your podcast? Thank you.
Appreciate it. And Jennifer has on boots too. Now, I'm assuming Johnny is your son? Oh, okay. I just didn't know where the Johnny came from. All right. And our next speaker is again from South Park. It is Sonia Pons, and she is on the pathway Persuasive Influence Level 3, Inspire Your Audience, 5 to 7 minutes, Madam Timer. And the title of her speech is What is Your Kryptonite? Please welcome Sonia Pons.
Hi, hello family. Is it possible to share the screen if I can share a PowerPoint? If not, it's okay.
Sure. Yep. Don't start the timer yet. Try it now, Sonia. You're on mute, Sonia.
That is the story of the decade. You're on mute. Thank you so much for that. My fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, my question to you is, what is your kryptonite? What aspect of your Toastmasters journey have you dismissed because you felt you just wasn't ready? For me, that pictures on the screen says it all. For me, I just don't know enough. Those signature nouns, those people, places, and things. I felt if I didn't know enough, I couldn't use my voice in Toastmasters. But sometimes when you make a rash decision to politely mute your VPE or your area director, amazing things will happen. And for me, that amazing thing was becoming a district leader. Because when you become a district leader in Toastmasters, you learn, you grow, and you defy gravity. Now, most of us, if we're honest, have a very similar Toastmasters experience. When we first walk into a meeting, we're nervous about the unexpected. I'm not a great writer. You expect me to write a speech every other month? Wait a minute, I stumble over my words, or I don't have the right look. My clothes are not good enough. Or I may be like, whoa, you're gonna evaluate me in front of everybody? What do you think you are? But the most excitement comes when you start imagining those limitless opportunities. You get to hang out in pathways and learn about projects like how to write a podcast, how to produce a podcast, how to moderate a panel. You also maybe get that best table topics speech, maybe the best impromptu speech. Maybe you get a ribbon, maybe you get a certificate. Maybe you get that email that says, oh, you were amazing. But the more you work your Toastmasters journey, you're going to find your unexpected greatness. And you're going to find out that Toastmasters Club mission was on point. When it said this, you will be empowered and you will have greater self-confidence if you just invest in that supportive, positive learning environment. Because in that environment, you're going to grow, you're going to learn, and you're going to defy gravity. Then you get excited. You become a Toastmaster contagion. You want to visit Toastmasters all over the world, all over your city. And the pandemic has done it for us. I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I get to hang out with you guys. I've been to Africa. I've been to South America. I've been to Asia. I've been all over, learning about how different people do the Toastmasters experience. I've volunteered in contests all over the world. I've volunteered in networking events, helping as a Zoom master. I've even volunteered to be an officer in another district that I'm not even a member of, all because I felt the need to promote the Toastmasters experience. And so when someone comes, hey, Sonia, there's something different about you. I get to tell my colleagues, my family, my friends, I'm growing through Toastmasters. I'm learning through Toastmasters, and I am defying gravity. And then you get that pat on the back. So someone's always watching. Remember that someone's always watching. And then people are going to volunteer you for opportunities. And you're going to be honored You're going to start stretching yourself because you know you can do it. You're a safe bet. And when you're tired, guess what? You're going to do it anyway because you believe in Toastmasters. And Toastmasters, there's no such thing as a failure. In Toastmasters, there's always a safe space to land because in Toastmasters, you learn, you grow, and you defy gravity. And through this experience, I've had the opportunity to be a district leader, as I said before. Been an area director in 2 different districts. I'm now a division director. But the thing I loved the most was being a club extension chair. I get to become a super spreader when I talked about the contagion. I get to come up with a group of skilled Toastmasters, whether it be just distinguished Toastmaster, regular meal Toastmasters. And we get people excited about the Toastmaster experience through demo meetings, amplifying the Toastmaster's pitch that you, someone we don't even know, will be able to find your voice and amplify it with intention. And in that space, you get to learn all kinds of different personalities. You get to learn about different traditions, different themes, different meeting platforms. And how many know there's a difference between a community club and a corporate club? And just like there's a script for that in Toastmasters, there's a PowerPoint for that too. And in this space of diversity of thought, you will again learn and grow and defy gravity. But let's face it, reality can hit. And sometimes reality is as disappointing as the season finale of Scandal, The Sopranos, or that very unfortunate January 6, 2021 political event. Any sustainable organization has its own politics and culture. There are cliques, there's dramas, there's sycophants, there's saboteurs, there's statisticians, and there's some TI hurt that perpetrates as TI gangsters. And there's some roots that you feel like you can step on that are rotted to the core, and they're nothing but cascading leaves. But you remember, Toastmasters is just a microcosm of the world that we live in, the world that we navigate in every day. And in this world and in Toastmasters, I will learn, I will grow, and I will defy gravity. And family, that's where the lessons come. In Toastmasters, we are where leaders are made. And leaders are visionary. We don't ruminate on unfinished business. We are forward-thinking catalysts. And we're not in the young leaders program. We're adults. We know that you don't have to be popular to have impact. And what I like to call the pyramid scheme, that distinguished club program, it does not define your experience as a Toastmaster. The only question you need to ask is what? Did I grow? Did I learn? And did I have an opportunity to defy gravity? My fellow Toastmasters and distinguished class, don't let the opportunity with this family, Queen City, pass you by because you don't see yourself growing, learning, and defying gravity. You've already heard it today. Every story, like a project, has a beginning and an end, but there is an arc that you have to invest in, and it's your responsibility to write the plot. And you have to ask yourself, did I grow as a leader? And what else do I have left? And let me remind you, in Toastmasters, there's a hierarchy, there's a protocol. But from the international director to the person who just walked in the door as a guest, it all starts with one speech, and that's the icebreaker. That's the equalizer. And you can do anything you want to do in Toastmasters. So family, tonight when you go home, I want you to take out your pen, your paper, your marker, your lipstick, and I want you to write this down. What is the arc of my Toastmasters story? What leader am I in right now? And what else do I have left to do? And if you find yourself suffering from writer's block, remember those 4 words on your screen. I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, and I am going to defy gravity. Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sonia. Appreciate that. And can I get a timers report?
Okay, Jennifer, 1343. And Sonia, 8:30. 8:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And as we move into the next section, don't forget that the word of the day is politely, and try to use it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Richardson, and he is going to be our table topics master.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As David said, I am Jamie Richardson. I'll be facilitating our table topics discussion tonight. Table topics are an opportunity for both our membership as well as guests to practice your impromptu speaking. So to speak off the cuff. Think about it as your own little personal podcast. So I'll be asking a set of questions actually based on podcasting. And then each respondent or participant will have 1 to 2 minutes to prepare their response, and we'll ask for a timer's report at the end. So I'm going to politely ask for our first volunteer. And if we don't have any, then I will have to resort to non-polite asking. All right, we have one. Zach, welcome. We've got one online. All right, I will hand you the mic here in a second, Zach.
So do I get like a minute to think about what I'm going to say?
No. You can take a moment though. Absolutely pause and collect your thoughts. That's encouraged. But then 1 to 2 minutes to actually prepare your remarks. So try to stay within the lights.
Okay.
All right. So your question. Well, first of all, do you listen to podcasts?
Joe Rogan.
Okay, fair enough. So Joe Rogan, maybe that's your favorite podcast. So why is that your favorite podcast?
So Joe Rogan's my favorite podcast because he brings some of the biggest people in the world on his podcast. So when you do listen to a Joe Rogan podcast, you know you're probably listening to a top scholar or a famous athlete or any of the top people in the world. Also, his production level, he just moved to a new studio in Austin, Texas, and it's videoed, so you really get to interact. So I personally watch on YouTube, and I don't listen to audio on Spotify. So I would say the interaction when I get to sit on my phone or on my computer and watch these podcasts, watch these people, because it just makes it more interactive. And then I would say my final reason for liking Joe Rogan is because he's in line with a lot of the thinking the way I think, and I love to hear his insights and yeah.
Good. Thank you, Zach. You made that 1 minute mark. Congratulations. All right. Eugene, did you want to volunteer? Yeah. Okay. All right. So Eugene, your next question then. So Conan O'Brien, for those of you who haven't listened to his podcast, it's Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. It's my favorite personally. He just sold that podcast to Sirius for $150 million. So podcasting is exploding in popularity and the commercial viability. So my question for you, Eugene, is what do you think it is about podcasts at this moment in time that it's making it so popular?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. I think that has a bit to do with, the state of things over the past couple of years, the pandemic, everyone being more focused on things that are going on online. It ties into the wave of what's been happening with technology over the past years, I think, as well. I work in an industry where video conferencing is a huge part of what we do. And just like we're using Zoom here today, I think that podcasting has taken off in such a way because people had more time to focus on other things outside of television, and podcasting really just grew wings and took off to another level. I actually have a podcast of my own, so hearing things tonight, hearing this message tonight was important to me because I actually picked up a few tips that I think will be beneficial for my podcast as well. And I think that the trend is not going to stop. I actually had a friend of mine who did a podcast maybe even 10 years ago, before it was even a big thing. And now everyone is doing a podcast. I know at least 4 or 5 of my friends have podcasts. And I think after tonight, I'm sure many of our Toastmasters and even some guests will probably become podcasters as well. So I think that trend will continue, and I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you very much, Eugene. Mr. Toastmaster, do we have time for another question, or do we need to move on? Yeah? Okay. All right. Do we have any more volunteers for one more question? All right, Cameron. Get the best out of the way first. All right. So Cameron, your question is, if you were to start a podcast, you haven't yet, have you? Okay. What would your podcast be about and why?
Oh, thank you, Toastmaster Jamie. If I was to start a podcast, what would it be about? I've never really given that much thought, so I would have to pick maybe several different things. Well, I'm an avid fan of the Dallas Cowboys. I would probably do a podcast about that and invite fellow fans of Dallas Cowboys to join. Something that I hope you don't make fun of me about is I'm kind of in the process of trying to, I don't know, think about entrepreneurship in a way. And one thing that's really struck my interest is laundromats. And maybe I'll give a speech on that one day because you're probably going, why the hell are you talking about laundry? But anyway, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about laundromats, and that's kind of given me a lot of knowledge that I didn't have, as I'm sure probably nobody here knows much about laundromat business. But if I ever got rich or successful at that, I would try to pay it forward. Let me think. Or anything to do with finances and helping people get ahead and retire early. That's something that's also a passion of mine, as I can't stand hearing, stories like people that were in my family that, had to work until their 60s and 70s because they had to. Like, that just does not sound like life to me. And like my grandparents retiring and then they're dead within 6 to 8 years, like that's not going to be me. So I want to try to help people get financially set in life. And, so that would be another idea to pay it forward. So those are my 3 or 4.
Awesome. Thank you, Cameron. And on the tip of a bonus episode, so for your laundromat podcast, you could add in like people who met and fell in love in laundromats, just like 5 or 10 minutes, just to break up the business piece. All right. Thank you for all of our participants. Can I now ask for our timers report?
Thank you, Jamie. So for time, we have Zach at 1:01, Eugene at 1:17, and Cameron at 1:32. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Congratulations again. That concludes our table topics portion, and I will turn it back to our Toastmaster.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. Good questions and on topic. Now, part of Toastmasters for our guests is getting feedback whenever we give a speech. Now, we don't evaluate our guest speakers, but we did evaluate Sonia, and we have a general evaluator who's going to evaluate the meeting as a whole. So I'm going to turn it over to our Vice President of Education, Eric Laxer, and he's going to be our general evaluator.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and thank you, Toastmaster David, for that excellent overview. And as you correctly stated, I am the general evaluator of the evening, and my role is to coordinate this evening's evaluations and also to provide my own evaluation of our meeting as a whole, which I will do shortly. But first, I would like to introduce our immediate past president, Toastmaster Vanessa, who has the pleasure of doing the evaluation for the speech given by Toastmaster Sonia, which was titled, "What is Your Kryptonite?" Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Toastmaster Vanessa.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you to our speaker, Sonia, for another really engaging speech. Sonia, as soon as you started speaking, I could tell you had experience as a speaker. And one of the ways I could tell is you had that unique ability to vary your pace in such a natural conversational way, and yet in a way that kept us all as listeners really tuned in and really focused. For instance, when you had an important point to make, you would slow down just a little bit, and then maybe you would speed up a little bit and explain something else to take us to your next point. And as you can see right there, I was trying to mimic a little bit of that technique you used to really keep us all focused. And that worked so well because in actual conversation, that's actually how people speak. And so when you hear a speaker presenting a public speech or something to a group, when it's more conversational, it automatically makes the audience feel at ease. And it also makes us tune in and really listen that much better. Another thing I loved about your technique is your diction. And this is kind of a nerdy English major word that my mom as an English major would love to hear me use, but your use of words and the variety of words that you used, I had to note down a couple phrases that really stood out to me. One was statisticians and saboteurs. I think I heard that correctly, but that stood out as really interesting. And so often I know I fall under the trap of using generic phrases. Oh, I was so happy with myself. I did so well. Excellence, Toastmasters, we're all doing good. And those words can be overused. And you totally avoided that trap. You used these really interesting words that I just loved. You said, write this down with a pen or lipstick, and I'll have to remember that anytime I'm missing a pen, I can just grab my lipstick. And hopefully I won't be in that situation. But I just love that imagery that you used. In terms of things to work on, I had to think more structurally and think of things that would be a little more advanced, because I can tell you're an advanced speaker. One thing that came to mind is sometimes, because you had so much variety in your speech, sometimes there's a bit of a trade-off between texture and interest and unity. And one thing that you could do to unify your speech even more is to perhaps pick one central story to really hit home that theme you told us about, which is the learn, grow, and defy gravity. Maybe you had an experience with district leadership that helped you learn, helped you grow, and at the end, maybe you could tell us a bit more of how that helped you defy gravity metaphorically. And that would really help bring that speech into a unified story format that can be even easier for us to follow and really remember long term. Another thing to challenge yourself, I was thinking about the title of your speech. I was trying to figure out the connection between the title, What is Your Kryptonite, and the theme of learn, grow, defy gravity. And I was trying to make that connection. But maybe that's something to think about. How does that concept of kryptonite fit in with the learning and the growing? And I'm sure there was, but maybe just making it that much easier for us as the audience who's not quite as familiar, just to draw that connection even more. But overall, I just really enjoyed your speech. I love listening to you as a speaker, and I'm looking forward to hearing future speeches from you. And I'll turn it back over to Eric.
Thank you for that excellent report, Toastmaster Vanessa. Can we please now have a timers report from Toastmaster Heather?
Yes, Vanessa, 3:32. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Heather. And I will now give my report of the meeting, and then we will come back and do the grammarian's report following that. So to start off, I want to compliment our leadership. Elvis did a great job of getting the meeting started and introducing David as the Toastmaster of the day. And David, once again, you did an amazing job for two reasons. Number one, you stepped right into the role. That role was not filled until the last minute. And in your case, it was really a seamless transition. It was as if you had been preparing for this role tonight for several weeks. And as always, you were well prepared. You gave some excellent insight. And you did a phenomenal job managing the meeting, the podium, the stage. And so full kudos from my end. The inspirational speaker this evening was given by John. And when David introduced you, he made a comment and said, well, John, you always wow us. And so setting high expectations for you before you even came up to the stage. Well, let me say this. You met and exceeded, as always, those expectations. And for those people who are new to public speaking, I want you to pay close attention to John. His voice was entertaining and informative. He used his hand gestures in a way that will help us remember the message he was trying to convey. And he walked around the stage with incredible presence in a way that reflected his confidence. And I can tell you, if you're new to our group or to Toastmasters, like all of us who walk through the doors, that is something that is learned and that we train for. So if we can do it, you can do it. I'd like to compliment the other people who participated in the meeting. and had different roles, including Heather, excellent job with the timer. You moved through the lights extremely well, and you did so very politely. You went from green to yellow and red with the utmost of respect for the speaker. So good job there. And I'd like to thank our guest speaker, Jennifer. That was outstanding. And you seemed incredibly comfortable. The information you shared with us was really informative. I love 3 of the points that you made that I wrote down that I think is applicable in many different situations. Content over perfection, that is very valuable. Integrity, and then maybe the most important was do good work and have it out there. So I just wanted to re-mention those. And again, thank you for your contribution to this evening's meeting. Vanessa, you gave an excellent evaluation of Sonia's speech. And I again want to point that out as an example to others watching how you did so. It's not easy to give and it's not easy to get feedback, but we try to follow a structure here that allows people to do so with respect toward the person they're giving the feedback to, where you provide some compliments toward what they did well during their speech, and then offer suggestions of areas where their speech or their speaking can be improved. So I don't have anything to add to the way you presented your presentation to Sonia this evening. Well done. And finally, I just want to mention to Jamie, what I really love the way you did your table topics is you tied it into the theme this evening and did a great job of giving people who came up and spoke really just an opportunity to share something about their own podcast preferences. And I want to thank our table topic speakers. I will now call upon our grammarian to give us his report for this evening, Toastmaster Jordan.
Thank you, Eric. Great job to all the speakers tonight. First with the word of the day, David, he got it right after I said it. Heather, I heard you say it. I could have missed a couple more. I heard Sonia say it, and I heard Jamie say it. So extra kudos to all of you. An amazingly few number of fillers, as always, for this group. I didn't hear any fillers for Sonia. I heard a couple of fillers for Zach, but a really great job for taking a shot at your first table topics. I'm always really impressed by the table topics people that can, rattle off responses in an impromptu fashion. And I think I heard one from Cameron, but other than that, it was very clean. So congrats, everybody.
Thank you to the other members of the evaluation team this evening. And I would now like to turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster of the day, David Jones. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Meeting's almost over. We're getting there. We're running a little behind, but that's okay. Now, usually we have a ballot counter that goes around and takes your votes for your favorite speaker, but we only have one speaker, one evaluator tonight, so we didn't do it. But Heather has been our ballot counter the past few times, and since she's an officer of the company, we call it executive decision, and she's going to announce who the favorite table topics speaker was tonight based on her own opinion. So please welcome Heather.
Thank you, David. Okay, there's no pressure with this role. So there was Zach, Eugene, and Cameron. I am going to go with Zach.
Thank you, Heather. And that was the right choice. We always give it to our guests. So I don't know if you knew that, but that was the proper choice. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our president to close out the meeting. Elvis Lopez.
Thank you so much. And please, another round of applause for our Toastmaster. We had an excellent meeting tonight. Before we wrap up, I would like to ask for Jamie again to give me a help with our guests to give us your last impression about the meeting overall, please.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we'll start with Lindsay again.
Well, I think that I am very inspired. That was my intention of coming here. I'm very impressed with my friend Jennifer, although I knew she would crush it. And I told her that in the car ride over. And I'm really appreciative of this whole experience. And I think that I might come back to another one. So thank you all so much.
And I will just say real quick, so as the treasurer, you can certainly come reach out to me afterwards and I can help with any questions around membership. So we'll go now to Leon.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. And I really enjoyed the meeting. Something that really stood out to me this meeting was the flow of it. And I also appreciate between last meeting and this meeting, having an educational piece by having a guest speaker come and talk about podcasting. And last time it was about other ways of learning and so forth. So that was definitely unique to have. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think that's something the board has been intentional on this year, is trying to find some educational speakers to come in and share different types of speaking or just things that could be instructive in our own personal journeys. All right, I will now go to Reggie.
Thank you. Again, it's wonderful to be here and be in everybody's presence. One thing that resonated with me is what John said when he talked about circle of comfort. I can certainly understand what he means by that. But I really learned about, I really enjoy learning about podcasting. I've watched several podcasts. I didn't really know the ins and outs of what goes all into it. So I really appreciate that presentation. I will be back.
Then we had a guest that maybe joined a little bit late. So if you could introduce yourself real quick, and then any thoughts you had on the meeting.
My name is Ola. I'm a walk-in guest. I found out about this location online, and as soon as I walked in, I did listen in on, I guess maybe halfway through Jennifer's talk on podcasting, and I was very impressed with the knowledge she shared and her experiences, and I guess that was the standout part of this meeting for me. So yeah.
Thank you. All right, and then Ajit.
Thank you. This was the first meeting, and I am bit like I'm inspired, not bit, a lot. And I heard about the podcast. I have never heard any podcast in my life. So today I'm going to listen to something. So you inspired me. It was very informative. Thanks for that. And apart from that, the meeting was very interactive. I could have spoken something, but I didn't raise my hand because I didn't know anything about podcast. So probably next time, if I find a good topic I know of, I can talk about something. But it was very good. Thank you.
The lesson I took away from that is don't share the questions in advance so we don't scare off potential participants. All right, Zach.
Yeah, so this was my second time here. I definitely enjoyed this meeting a lot. Jennifer, you crushed it. John, you also crushed it. You know, last time I think it was like a kickoff to a season of Toastmasters or something where we kind of went through the whole membership process. And so that took a bit of the time last meeting, but I really enjoyed this meeting because it was full of people talking. I got a chance to talk, which, I mean, I was nervous as crap up there. And I mean, that's why I'm here. So I really enjoyed it, and I'll be back.
Awesome. Well, fantastic job. And David lied. We don't always give the ribbon to the guest. So you actually earned that tonight. Congratulations. All right. And then lastly, Elizabeth.
All right. So this was my first time, and I'm so thankful that Heather had me come. He was a client of mine. So I'm a digital content producer. And so I do a range of digital content. And then I used to work for podcasts solely as a podcast producer for an agency in Seattle. So I think that's why she was like, oh, you should come check her out and see like what. So so that was really fun to hear your story and how you kind of trial by error. And it's just really interesting to hear people's journey with mediums, right? And it's all storytelling. And so it was just really cool to hear. And a lot of things you said were very true and on point. And so it was cool to hear for your journey with it and how, you started in your own personal experience with podcasting, because it's a really interesting medium. I started out in news, and then I did TV, and then I did radio, and then I landed in podcasting. And it was essentially because of I loved the ability to multitask and storytelling. You could do longer format storytelling. And so I've seen all areas of this industry evolve, and to land in podcasting was the first time that it hit amateurs. And when it first came out to professionals, we were kind of oh, it's just an amateur field. And then it became the it thing, because people were suddenly able to tell their stories in such a vibrant way and really get a community. And that's essentially what podcasting became, is an area to really get and develop an intimate relationship with your client and with the people, with the community. And it was community building at its essence. And so it really has been an interesting experience for me to come and to watch it evolve and see the people that really become fantastic at it. And it's become a field for, media makers who found that they couldn't produce ethical media in mainstream news to then be able to go into podcasting. And I come from the days where it was such a formal crossover, where it was when you were on air, it was such a regular, everything was formalized and regularized. And so it's just interesting to see it in a candid space and see this how much of an impact it's made on people. And so it's been a really cool experience. And especially with you saying, talking about being an empath and do you do just in person, or do you do virtual? Okay. How do you feel about the virtual Okay. Yeah, because that's a very different experience than just connecting to your. Yeah. And it's a little just different connecting with the guests. And so I was interested in how you were, because it changes the vibration of the conversation. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting when you cross over to that. I'd love to hear your thoughts and what you think about that. But yeah, you're doing a great job. I was really impressed with everything you were doing. So good job. How long have you been doing it? In October. Okay. So yeah, so you're a quick learner. Yeah. It's that. Yeah, it sounds great. So I'll listen when I get home. And I also wanted to, I loved your talk too. And it was very it was went in there, you got it done and got out. And I enjoyed that. I was oh, you made a difference. I'm going to remember this. And so it's always nice to hear that and see. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you to all of our guests. I'll now turn it back to our president to close out the meeting.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jamie. And thanks again, all of our guests. Thank you to our guest speaker. We're now closing the meeting formally.